All right, folks, next up for us is a little unit on writing linear equations. Writing linear equations, and we're going to be working on this for the next 2 or 3 days actually. You'll notice today you are going to do two kinds of problems. You are going to write a linear equation given a slope and a y-intercept. Those are terms you should already be familiar with. And then given a graph. So those are the two kinds of problems we're going to see today. So first of all, let's make sure we remember our slope-intercept equation, also known as slope-intercept form. And we know from all of the work that we've done lately that that is our old buddy, y equals mx plus b. So we have seen and worked with him a lot. And that equation is really important in algebra because that equation provides us with two very important pieces of information about our line. And remember here, it's called slope-intercept for a reason. One of the important pieces of information that it gives us is the slope of our line. And that's represented by the letter m in the equation. The other important piece of information this equation gives us is the b. That is our y-intercept, which remember tells us where our line is going to cross the y-axis. So notice that even though we're moving on here, we're going to continue working with slope-intercept, y equals mx plus b. And we need to continue to remember that that equation tells us two important things about a line. It tells us the m, which is the slope of the line, how it rises and runs, and it tells us the b, which is the y-intercept of the line. So it lets us know where that line is going to cross the y-axis. Now, to write the equation for a line, we are going to use a three-step process. Okay, so anytime they say to you, write the equation for the line, you're going to follow a three-step process. The first thing you're going to do is find m. Find m. And I'm going to want to see you write on your paper m equals and tell me what that number is. Okay? The second thing you're going to do is find b. And on your paper, I'm going to want you to write b equals and tell me what that number is. And then the third and final step is going to be to write the equation. And that equation I'm going to want to see on your paper as y equals mx plus b. And we'll actually know what number to put right here where m is, and we'll know what number to put right here where b is. So we're going to find m, which don't forget is your slope. And we're going to find b, which don't forget is your y-intercept. And then we're going to use those two important pieces of information to write the equation for the line. So we'll begin here. Write the equation for each line. Now notice on number 1 what it tells us. It tells us that the slope is 3 and the y-intercept is -2. Now slope we know is m and y-intercept we know is b. So keep that in mind as we're going through these problems. So remember, step 1 is to find m. So what is m equal to? Well, according to this, the slope is 3, so the m is 3. I don't have to find it. They told me what it was. Second step is to find b. Now b stands for y-intercept, so the y-intercept is -2. That means b is -2. So notice again, I don't have to do any work to find it. They told me. So find m. In this problem, m is equal to 3. Find b. In this problem, b is equal to -2. And then the last step is to write the equation. And I'm going to fill these two numbers in. So y equals mx is going to be y equals 3x. And then my plus b is a -2, so I'm going to put -2. So to make this clear, what I'm doing is I'm taking y equals mx plus b, I'm taking that equation, and I'm putting my m number right there, so putting a 3 right there, and then I'm putting my b number right there. So y equals 3x minus 2 would be the equation of this line. And the way that I have the work written on the screen right now is the way that I would want you to show me the work. I want to see all three things: the m equals, the b equals, and then that equation. All right, so let's move on to number 2. We have a slope equal to 2/3 and a y-intercept equal to 0. So step 1 is to find m. M is your slope, so they told you that is 2/3. Find b. B is your y-intercept. I spelled that wrong, didn't I? I left the c out. Y-intercept, and that is 0. So now I can write my equation. I'll put 2/3 where m is, so that'll make this y equals 2/3 x. And then plus b, I'll put plus 0. I'm not actually going to write that though, because if I add 0 to 2/3 x, that's not going to change it. So I don't have to write that plus 0. And I'm not going to, because in algebra we should always try to write things in the simplest way possible. So there's my answer for number 2. All right, for number 3, we have a slope equal to 1 and a y-intercept equal to 7. So we're going to find m, which is our slope. They already told me that's 1. I'm going to find b. B is the y-intercept, so they told me that was 7. And so now I'm going to write my y equals mx plus b equation. It's going to be y equals 1x. Remember that 1 can be invisible, plus 7. All right, last one of these. We have a slope equal to -3/2 and a y-intercept equal to -3. So we're going to find m. Our slope is -3/2. Find b. Our y-intercept is -3. And then we're going to write the equation. mx is going to be -3/2 x. Plus b is going to be -3 because that b is a -3. So I hope you see on these it's really easy. Finding m is no problem because they're telling you m when they tell you the slope. Finding b is also no problem because when they tell you the y-intercept, they're telling you b. And so all you have to do then to write the equation is just fill in the m number and the b number every single time. All right, so there's one kind of problem. And what you'll see as we progress through this is that the amount of work you're asked to do will gradually increase. So these didn't require a lot of work on your part. As we move on, it will. All right, so next up, we're going to write the equation of these two lines. Now you'll notice this time what I'm doing is I'm giving you a graph. But we are going to follow the same process. We are going to find m, we are going to find b, and then we are going to write that y equals mx plus b equation. So let's talk about how we're going to do this. Let's start out with our finding m. The big thing we need to remember is that m is slope. And on a graph, slope is rise over run. So I'm going to have to do some work here to get my slope, but the good news is it's work I should already know how to do. Remember, we rise either up or down, and then we run either left or right. So let's come over here to our graph. If I'm going to find the slope of this line, I need 2 dots on my line. And you'll notice they didn't provide those. So I'm going to put a dot right here, and then I'm going to put a dot right here. You want to make sure you put those dots at spots where you know the exact coordinates. So they need to be on the lines of that grid. All right, so I'm going to start over here at the point on the left, and when I rise, I'll be going up. And notice I'll only be going up 1 space. So up 1 space means my rise would be a +1. Okay, now I'm going to run to the right. And I want you to notice that I'm running to the right 3 spaces. So if I'm going to the right 3, that would be a +3. Now at this point, you would want to type this fraction into your calculator like we've always done to see if that will reduce. And 1 over 3 will not reduce. That is as simple as it gets. So 1/3 would be the slope of my line. That is my m. All right, so now I move on to the b. Remember that b stands for the y-intercept. So it is supposed to tell you where the line is crossing this y-axis. Well, I can see that my line is crossing right here. That point is my y-intercept, and it looks like that is happening at -1 on the y-axis, because here's 0, and I'm down 1 step below that. So that is a -1. So my b is a -1. So I have my m equal to 1/3. I have my b equal to a -1. So now I'm ready to write my y equals mx plus b equation. So for the mx part, I'm going to put 1/3 in for m and get 1/3 x. And then for my plus b part, I'm going to put in -1, so I will have -1. So right there would be the equation for this line. Okay. Going to have to find myself some room to work on this number 2. I think I'll do it down here below it. So down here I'm going to have m equals, I'm going to have b equals, and then I'm going to have my equation y equals, where I can put my mx plus b. All right, let's do our slope first. For slope, we're going to rise over run. So let's use this point, and let's use this point for finding our slope. All right, starting from the point on the left, first I'm going to rise either up or down. This line will require that I go down, and notice that it's 1, 2, 3 spaces. So that will make the rise a -3 because we went down 3 spaces. Then I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to run to the right, and notice I'm running to the right 1, 2, 3 spaces. That would be a +3 since I'm going to the right. Now, on my calculator, when I type in -3 divided by 3, I get -1 as my slope. So my m on this problem is a -1. So I found m. Now I'll move on to b. Now b is where I cross the y-axis. So when I look at my line crossing the y-axis, I see that that happens right here. That is +3 on the y-axis, so my b is 3. So now when I fill in -1 for m and 3 for b, I'm going to have y equals a -1x. Notice I'm not writing the 1. 1's can be invisible, plus 3. So y equals -1x plus 3 would be the equation for this line. Now this is exactly the opposite of what we did before, because before I would give you this equation, y equals 1/3 x minus 1, and you would write down your m and your b, and then you would put that line on the graph. So notice here that we are doing this in reverse. I'm giving you the graph already complete, you're writing down the m and the b, and then putting those back into the equation. So to write the equation of a line, find m, find b, write your equation as a y equals mx plus b. Now we'll continue on with this tomorrow with a new kind of problem. If you have any questions about what you've seen in this video today, please let me know.